Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy Mack, and tonight our Cleveland Cavaliers took on the Boston Celtics in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference semifinals in a game where basically nobody thought the Cavs would win, right? Everybody picked the Boston Celtics, and to be honest with you, I understand why. That said, we always feel like our team has an opportunity to win. That said, I don't think any of us saw a score that would indicate this much of a blowout. Boston won by way of 120-95. Basically, the story of the game, the three-point shooting, right? We knew that would be the case heading into this series. Boston, their bread and butter is the three-point shot. The three-point shot is king in Beantown. And those of you, if you watch my breakdown for this series, you would have come away with that being the number one key to victory. There are a lot of different things that contributed to them winning this game tonight, but that was definitely number one. Let's start with the obvious, shall we? Now, Boston shot 18 of 46 from three-point distance tonight. Now, listen to that. 46 attempts from three-point distance. They shot 39.1% from three-point range tonight. Now, during the course of the regular season, the Boston Celtics they took on average 42 and a half three-point attempts per contest, and they made a league-leading 16 and a half three-pointers per game. Both of those led the NBA, by the way. Tonight, they made 18 shots. They made above their season average, and that's above the NBA's average. Let that sink in. During the course of the regular season, they shot 38.8%, which placed them second in the NBA. And considering the staggering amount of shot attempts, that's even more phenomenal, in my opinion. 41% of that team's total points come via the three-point shot, which unsurprisingly also led the NBA by a pretty substantial margin, with the Golden State Warriors being a distant second at 37.6% in that regard. So all of these things, even down to the percentage, they shot better than their season average. They shoot the hell out of the three-point shot, and we knew that was going to be the case coming into this series. So how do you stop that? It's pretty damn hard. They have the ability to shoot, and they have the ability to play five out, right? They get so much shooting from up and down their roster, from their point guards to their centers. Everybody can shoot. 8 different players for Boston this season knocked down 100 or more triples, with 3 knocking down over 190, each of which would have led the Cavaliers. They know how to shoot the ball. They shoot the ball well. They stick to that plan. They live and die by the three-point shot. That said, I'd be sadly mistaken if I didn't point out the fact that Cleveland, they led them. At certain points, they were going under screens. They failed to get their hands up. They just a lot of uncontested triples tonight. A lot. That said, I mean, that we knew that was going to be the case coming in. Hopping right into the chat down here, Tune In Sports 1 says Jarrett Allen and Dean Wade won't be back in time. They may not. And we know that this series, unlike the Orlando series, they could get away with their absences, right? Especially Dean Wade. Right, Dean Wade is a key figure in this type of matchup with his ability to defend the likes of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown out there. It's tough. It's tough. Tom K says they were insane at tough three-point makes, even on great defense. Yeah, even on the possessions in which the Cavaliers were able to provide a really good contest of the three-point shot, a la a lot of Derrick White's shot attempts tonight. They just drilled him. I mean, Derrick White, for those of you who are unaware, came into this series probably looking like Boston's best player through these playoffs right now. Derrick White, prior to the start of tonight's game, came in averaging 22.4 points and shooting a blistering. And I cannot emphasize this enough because you saw it tonight, right? He came in shooting a blistering 47.7% on his three-point attempts through these playoffs. That man is balling, and that is in addition to the all defensive level defense that we know he is capable of providing. And I mean, this type of game came in a This blowout came in a game in which Jason Tatum didn't really even make a huge impact from a scoring standpoint. Now, he did a lot of other things well. He played some terrific defense tonight, but we didn't get the quintessential Jason Tatum game. Man scored just 18, and I know just 18 sounds like it's underselling it, but man, 18 points is not something that if you would have told me that we would have held Jason Tatum to 18 points tonight, I would have been okay with that. It did come on 7 of 19 from the field, so he was especially inefficient tonight, including 0 of 5 from 3-point distance. But what he made up for that was on the boards, where he pulled down 11 rebounds, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, the rebound disparity between the Cavs and the Celtics. But this night, to highlight it, Derrick White, this man, he just continues to look like the best player out there right now. And we haven't even gotten to the rest of these guys out here. I mean, Jrue Holiday, 14 points. Jason Tatum, we already talked about him with his 18. Jaylen Brown was also phenomenal tonight with his 32. And you look to the bench, Peyton Pritchard, who is experiencing the best season of his career with more minutes and a elevated role, 16 points on 5 of 12 from the field, including 4 of 10 from 3-point distance. Some of his makes, man, they were crazy. I mean, that the heave to beat the buzzer, for one, that's definitely one that sticks out right there. But I say all of this to say that Cleveland just did not have the ability, and I said this coming in, we can't necessarily afford to get into a firefight with them. We just do not have the requisite shooting available. And how ironic is it that we go from probably the worst 3-point shooting team in the league in the Orlando Magic in round 1 to the best, not probably, but literally the best 3-point shooting team in the league in the Boston Celtics. That's crazy to me. These guys, they just get that shot up, and it can make or break you if you're not able to keep pace with them. I didn't necessarily come in feeling like it would be a blowout, but here we are. Cavaliers, much of the same issues that had plagued them in round 1 were again the case tonight. They didn't get anything from anybody else really than Donovan Mitchell and maybe Evan Mobley down the stretch, and he really was a no-show to begin the game. So it just wasn't fun to watch it at certain points. Donovan Mitchell, as I'm Jovi says, DM a one-man team for this series yet again is not going to work. And that's exactly what it felt like at certain points out here tonight. Donovan Mitchell just seemed to be the only person able to contribute. We knew that coming into this one, if you watch the breakdown that I put out, one of my key matchups to watch was Darius Garland versus Derrick White. I am sad to inform the masses that DG got massively outplayed by Derrick White tonight. DG 14 points on 6 of 15 from the field and 2 of 8 from 3-point distance. He just couldn't get shots to fall, and that has been the case for much of this series. Now, he did lead the way in that Orlando series. He shot the best out of everybody, but still, he wasn't great in that series from a points production standpoint, and that continues to be the case. In order for us to win this series, Darius Garland has got to elevate his level of play. He can't be being outplayed by the likes of Peyton Pritchard. The man at this point in time, he's being paid like a max salary player. He has to perform like one when we need him to, and especially in a series like this. I know that Jrue Holiday, I know that Derrick White, they are terrific guard defenders, but you have to find a way to overcome that if you're Darius Garland. Donovan Mitchell is doing it right now with his 33 points on 12 of 25 from the field, and he has been willing this team. The Cavaliers do not make it out of round 1 without Donovan Mitchell going nuclear in the final 2 games of that series. You just don't. And so you need somebody else to step up, and that somebody should probably be Darius Garland. Right? You need your backcourt running mate to back you up, right? You need him to uplift you. You need him to provide solid support, and that's just not occurring right now. And it wasn't just Darius Garland. Mack Strus, it was another guy who I pegged to be an X factor for this series. He closed out the Orlando series, shooting the ball a little bit better over his final 3 games. I believe shooting 9 of 21 in those final 3, but he was basically a no-show from an offensive standpoint tonight. 5 points from Max Strus is not going to cut it on 2 of 8 from the field, including 1 of 5 from three-point distance. This is exactly the time of year that Max Strus was brought in. Yes, we know what he can do from a playmaking standpoint. Yes, we know what he can do from a rebounding standpoint. Yes, we know that he can play pretty solid defense out there. But at the end of the day, what did we bring you here for? Shooting. We brought you here to knock down shots. You have to do that in order for this Cavaliers team to have a chance at winning. And make no mistake, right? Nobody picks the Cavaliers to win this series, but come on, we at least have to make it competitive. We have to make it competitive at this point in time. Max Strus, he was non-existent. Let's just keep it a spade. And then you look at Isaac Okoro. Isaac actually showed up tonight at certain points. 11 points does not really showcase his value to this team. 4 of 11 from the field, 3 of 8 from three-point distance. And the number that sticks out to me for him all night is the number of three-point opportunities, or three-point attempts rather, that Isaac decided to take. 8 threes. We knew that against Orlando, he was terrible, right? From an offensive standpoint, Isaac Okoro was a no-show. But against Boston, we knew that this was going to be a series in which he was going to be needed not only on the defensive end, but he needed to go out there and play confident offensively. And that means pulling the trigger, because we knew that Boston was going to give him space. And that's exactly what they did. If you look at a number of his attempts, maybe all of them, honestly, once you go back and watch the film, you'll notice that they gave him at least 4 to 6 feet on most of his attempts, which is considered open or wide open. And when they do that, you have to make them pay for it. Isaac, coming off the best three-point shooting season of his regular season career at 39.1%, you have to have that carry over into the playoffs in order for you to continue to see the court as much as you have, especially when you're drawing the start in place of Jarrett Allen, right? Well, rather Evan Mobley, who is filling in for Jarrett Allen, right? He played 29 minutes tonight, gave the Cavs 11 points, which is by far, one of the best numbers that he's given them throughout this playoff so far. But, I mean, you're gonna need everybody to step their game up, and that includes Okoro, who did shoot the ball better tonight. But I do appreciate the fact that he was out there and he played confident and he let that thing fly. And he took 8 attempts, dropping 3 of them, in addition to the defense at times that he was able to play over Jaylen Brown, who torched him, I'm not gonna lie, and Jason Tatum at times. But what are you gonna do? Over the course of the regular season, during this 3-game matchup, Isaac Okoro actually fared very well against Jaylen Brown, holding him to 1 of 11 from the field. And he was able to play some pretty solid defense on Jason Tatum during the regular season as well. But at the end of the day, those guys are terrific offensive players. They are terrific scorers, and they will break out at a certain point. And there's going to be nothing that you can do to stop them. You just have to hope to contain them. And Isaac and Evan Mobley were not able to do that tonight. That's in addition to the rest of the Cavaliers from a defensive standpoint, right? I cannot put that solely on those two. Everybody really stunk it up from a defensive standpoint tonight. And then you look to this Cavaliers bench. The bench came in just into this series just atrocious, right? We know what the case has been for this Cavaliers bench. Through 7 games prior to tonight, the reserves came in averaging just 18.7 points per game. And even worse than that, guys, they are shooting 35.1% from the field, including 26.2% from three-point distance. That is not going to cut it. That is just not going to cut it. It really isn't. Caris LeVert, we knew he struggled in that round 1 series against Orlando, 7.4 points per game on a frigid 36.7% from the field, including an even worse 23.5% from three-point distance. You can't get nothing from your bench. The stat line for LeVert reads 4 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists on 2 of 6 from the field, including 0 of 2 from three-point distance. And what do we know about Caris LeVert? He is capable of being a two-way player, but when his offense is dwindling, so too can his defense, right? And when his offense, conversely, when he has it going offensively, he looks like a terrific defender. They go hand in hand a lot with him. Got just 4 points for him. Sam Merrill saw the court tonight. I think a lot of people were excited about that, but we didn't get anything from Sam because Boston made his life a living hell when he was out there chasing him around screens, making sure that he did not give that above the break triple that we know that he is capable of doing off of screens. And he would give you 0 points on 0 of 5 shooting, including 0 of 4 from 3-point distance. Sam could not solve the problem tonight. And we knew that even in his spot appearances against Orlando, he was not going to be able to make up for the lack of perimeter shooting for this team. There's only so much that he would be able to do. Now, against Orlando, during the course of that series, he shot 5 of 10 from 3-point distance. That's 50%. Boston is uniquely suited to make him pay for his defensive ineptitude at points. It's tough, man. And there's only so much that JB is going to be able to do to tinker around with his bench minutes. Um, to take it a step further, Tristan Thompson, 4 points. He did provide solid defense at times. And, we know what he can be from a rebounding standpoint, but just 4 points, 2 rebounds tonight. Then Marcus Morris, 3 and 3. You got nothing from your bench. I say all. All right. Technical difficulties, it seems. Hopefully you guys can hear me. My mic got turned off. But man, I say all that to say that the bench is still giving the Cavaliers absolutely nothing. They're giving them absolutely nothing. And you cannot have that against a Boston team that is just they've been phenomenal all season long. They from a statistical standpoint, Boston's bench only ranks 26th in scoring at 29.3 points per game, but they are as efficient as they come. They held the league's second highest overall field goal percentage off the bench at 48.9%, and they are second in 3-point percentage, caning 39% of their 3-point looks. And above all, they hold the best net rating in the NBA at 3.8. They are damn good, and they get really, really good minutes out of their bench. And if you're Cleveland, you have to be able to try and match that. I mean, from an offensive standpoint, you don't have the firepower to do so, but you have to do better than what their bench has been able to do. It's just been frustrating, man. That's all I can say. That is all I can say. To head back to the chat here, Bebo says free Mitchell. He doesn't deserve a bad coach and inconsistent role players. I mean, Mitchell, he's going to make his decision this offseason, and the Cavaliers are going to have to live with it, right? But I'm not going to make any declarative statements off of one game. We knew that this Boston series, it would be a hell of a thing. They're a offensive juggernaut. They are terrific defensively. They have few weaknesses, right? And so Cleveland already working at a disadvantage without the likes of Jarrett Allen out there, without Dean Wade. And I can't make too many excuses because Boston is without Kristaps Porzingis, a huge piece of the puzzle for them. But even still, they're able to overcome it because they have the depth to. Cleveland's depth has been tested all season, and while they have come through at points, they just can't match up with this Boston team on certain levels from an offensive standpoint. Somebody has to figure it out. Somebody has to get it going, and it cannot be just Donovan Mitchell trying to will this team to victory game in and game out, a la LeBron James, right? It's rough, man. It is rough. D. Slee says at least we're gonna get a nice return for Mitchell since he balling. I mean, it's not a foregone conclusion yet that Donovan Mitchell is leaving Cleveland. It's definitely something that may eventually be on the table if this team gets ousted in this round, because you can't tell me, even after that victory against Orlando, I don't necessarily believe that Donovan Mitchell can be convinced to stay with anything less than a Eastern Conference Finals berth, right? I hold true to that idea. I don't know. Maybe if you can push Boston to 6, 7 games, maybe Donovan considers staying, and that's the key word, considers. But you have to be able to, take things one game at a time, and I think that's what Donovan Mitchell is going to do. He's not going to make any rash decision based upon one playoff game, because if we did that, then he probably would have left right after the Boston series with it going 7 games when nobody expected it to, right? So just got to take it a game at a time. It wasn't all terrible tonight, honestly, but there just wasn't a lot of good things. JB Bickerstaff, head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers, was on record stating that they wanted to hold Boston below 43-point attempts. And we know that their season average is 42.5, so that would have been below. They blew past that by the third quarter, right? And they would end the game with 46. This is a team, like I said, they have excellent shooters. 8 different players knocked down 100 or more triples. 3 hit 40 or more percent from 3-point distance this season. You can't help or sag off any of these guys, right? You can't really switch. They have the ability to play 5 out. It is really, really tough to defend that type of thing. And what have we seen teams do in the past to kind of offset that and make up for it? Miami deployed a zone against them. Cavaliers tried that at certain points tonight, and they just couldn't. They couldn't overcome their shooting because they just shot over the likes of Cleveland. When you have an opponent that can do that, what do you do? All you can really do is just pray that they miss shots at a certain point, and because tonight that just was not the case. Again, 39% from 3-point distance tonight for the Boston Celtics. They shot over their season average. They attempted more than their season average, and they made more triples than their season average. TuneIn says, we don't have many guys that can generate offense off dribble. I don't know if Darius can average 20 in this series, but we need more than 14. Absolutely. And this is why when I was covering this series for a breakdown, that is why Darius versus Derrick White was on my mind heavily, because Derrick, we know what he can bring to the table from an offensive standpoint. He's a talented scorer in his own right. He's a talented shooter in his own right. But where he can really be a killer is on the defensive side of the ball. And we know that he has a bit more size than Darius, right? And traditionally, Darius Garland, Donovan, maybe not even Donovan Mitchell, but Darius Garland specifically has struggled against taller, bit more physical guards who can put their body on you, put their length on you. And that's exactly what Derrick did at certain points tonight. With the likes of Derrick on you, with the likes of Jrue Holiday out there defending you at that guard position, I don't know if he can get to 20 points per game average through the series, but we certainly, like you said, do need more than 14 from him. If you're not going to be able to get a high level of points, you have to affect the game in other areas. You have to step it up on the defensive end. You have to rebound. You have to make plays for guys, put your guys in best possible position. But yeah, 14 points from your max player is not going to cut it. Kaz says, does this team have an allergy or phobia to following up our 3-point attempts? I'm so annoyed every time we just sit behind the arc flat-footed admiring their shot. I don't know, man. There's not a lot I can say. This Boston team, they shoot the lights out just about every time they're out there on that court, no matter who the opponent is. But we knew that Cleveland struggled to defend the 3-point line coming into this one. It is something that has been somewhat of an Achilles heel all season long for Cleveland in that regard, right? Jarrett Allen definitely missed tonight. His ability to step out on the perimeter and provide solid defense out there against some of the bigs, when you're talking about an Al Horford out there being able to drop down shots, that's huge. That's a huge loss. His ability to step out there and make life difficult and protect the interior or the heart of the defense. He is a big time loss to not be able to have out there. That honestly sucks, but it is what it is. These are the guys that we have available, and this is where we're at. Ditto for Dean Wade, right? TuneIn says, do you think we need to go to Mobley more to get him going? I do, but here's my problem with that. Evan Mobley had a lot of touches down low where he just could not finish. He had a size advantage at certain points, but he just couldn't finish. Anytime they got him the ball down low, there were more than a handful of very makeable shots that he had at the rim where he just needs to take advantage of the size mismatch that he has against some of these Boston Celtics. So, yes, I do believe we need to get him going, but he's got to finish. If I'm trying to get you the ball, I'm trying to get you the shot down low, that's all I can do. I can't make the shot for you. Evan has to do that, and he has to take it himself take it upon himself to do that. Rob says, unfortunately, Garland as our max player, we have no shot. I'm a fan of Garland, and he seems like a great young man, but it's like building a football team with your running back as your highest paid player. I mean, this is a huge series for Darius, right? As it is for most of these Cavaliers. We could be looking at a much different team rather during the 2024-25 season if things play out a specific way during the course of this series. Some guys may not be back. Darius Garland may be on the proverbial chopping block. I don't think that'll be the case, nor am I advocating for it, but I do think that they would potentially listen for offers if this series goes a particular way, if Darius Garland continues to struggle. Now, the lone caveat with that is Donovan Mitchell. If Donovan Mitchell decides that he's going to call it quits and look to move on, they're not going to trade Darius, right? You have to keep at least one of those guys. But if if Donovan decides that he's going to sign on the dotted line, which he may not, they may make a decision on Darius Garland one way or another. But we are far from that conversation. I don't want to steer too far into that. Got to get more than 14 points for him from him though, in order to not even win the game, but to be competitive in them. Because Boston, they're role players. And yes, I consider Derrick White a role player with all the star power that they have over there in the likes of Jason Tatum and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But yeah, you have to get more production from your quote unquote max player in order for this Cavaliers to have even a shot to win a game. You can really say that about just about everybody outside of Donovan Mitchell. That said, I'm not going to harp too much on this loss. I felt like they had an opportunity on their hands to, steal one on the road, and maybe they do that in game 2, but time will tell. We knew that they had to shoot the ball better. We knew that they had to rebound better. And before we head out of here, that is one point that I wanted to touch on. Boston, if you guys are unaware, Boston actually won the Battle of the Boards in all 3 of the regular season matchups that this team had against Cleveland. They were able to do that by a pretty significant margin as well. Tonight, they did much the same. Won the Battle of the Boards 55-38. And the offensive rebounding was even worse. 13 offensive rebounds, which you know why that is such a tough thing to try and come back from, because it gives your opponent extra opportunities. And with a team that shoots the ball as well as Boston, you can't afford that. You cannot afford to give them extra opportunities to have additional possessions to score. You can't do that. And that is something that this Cleveland team has struggled with for a few seasons now. And this year, you have to be able to make up for that. I know that Jarrett Allen is a big piece of that, and his 13.8 rebounds is 3rd in the playoffs behind Nikola Jokic and the recently eliminated Anthony Davis. But you have to be able to team rebound, right? You have to crash the glass. That starts with Evan Mobley and Isaac Okoro, who has been inserted for Jarrett Allen, for lack of a better term, but that continues with the guards too. One of the things that really pissed me off in the New York series last year was the fact that the guards and the 3, right, did not crash the glass at all. It's a huge reason why we saw Josh Hart, and no slight to Josh Hart, because he's an excellent rebounder. We saw him do it all playoffs long last season, and he's done that to start this season, this postseason so far as well for New York. But my point is, we saw him dominate in ways that shouldn't have been possible because Cleveland allowed him to. And tonight, that often seemed to be the case for Boston, right? Coming into this one, they don't have like a overwhelming advantage in this regard. They don't have some guy out there that is dominant on the glass. Their leading rebounder is Jason Tatum, who averages just 8.1 boards per contest. But that said, similar to Orlando, they rebound the ball well because they do it as a team. And Cleveland has to take a page out of their book and flip the proverbial script here. Even without Jarrett Allen out there, everybody has to crash the glass. Donovan Mitchell is doing his part. He pulled down 6 boards. Evan Mobley pulled down 13. But you need more from Isaac Okoro, who starting at the power forward position tonight pulled down just 1 rebound. And Max Strus at the 3 pulled down just 2. You can't do it. You cannot expect to win a game when you give up 13 offensive rebounds and you get out rebounded 55 to 38. It usually will not be the case. And even in Cleveland's lone victory against Boston this season, they got out rebounded in that. And they got some cooking from Dean Wade, who is not with us right now. Well, he traveled, but he's not playing. Hopefully we'll see him during some point this series, but who knows? But my point being that they needed some heroics with Dean Wade to be able to overcome that lack of rebounding. Tune in says, I really wish we could have gotten more size at the three. Yeah, I think Strus is listed at about 6'5", and we know Strus is a pretty good rebounder for his size, but I mean, he's certainly no Josh Hart in that regard, right? And so overall as a team, you just have to get more in that sense. Turnovers tonight. Want to hear something crazy? Cavs only turned the ball over 5 times. I have not seen them do that in a very long time. I don't know when the last time they turned the ball over fewer than 6 times. Actually, you know what? I'm reading the wrong stat. No, I'm not. 5 turnovers tonight to Boston 6. They were really efficient with the basketball tonight in that regard. They did not commit a ton of turnovers. And why that is important, in my opinion, is because during the course of this postseason so far, they are actually averaging, if I'm not mistaken, 14.7 turnovers per contest prior to tonight's game, which is second most to the New Orleans Pelicans, who we know just got eliminated not a while ago. That's crazy to me. As tune in down here, same thing. Yeah, wow. I mean, when I'm reading this stat out loud, it doesn't seem that way, but they turned the ball over 5 times, unless Bleacher Report is lying to me, which certainly could be the case. It wouldn't be the first time. But yeah, considering they had turned the ball over damn near 10 more times per game during the Orlando series at 14.7, turning the ball over 5 times and still losing by almost 30 points. Well, yeah, losing by almost 30 points. That's insane. I don't know. That is insane to me. Blue Tober season says, would you bring in Klay Thompson? If the price is right, sure, I would bring him in. But I don't know what he'd be comfortable accepting, because Cleveland's not going to be able to offer much more than the mid-level exception, right? So who knows? But yeah, the turnovers, that's pretty crazy stat to me. That might be the most eye-opening thing of the entire game in that regard. And just because I got a little time on my hands, I think I'm actually going to check back on that. Yes, NBA.com has it tracked at 5 turnovers tonight to Boston 6. Insane. Just silence. I mean, that's literally all I can say in that regard. That said, I think that's probably a good point to kind of wrap things up tonight. Cavs got to shoot better in game 2. They have to rebound better, obviously, and they have to get more production out of not only their bench, but from everybody else outside of Donovan fucking Mitchell. You have to get more. Donovan cannot be the only person out here contributing. If you want to reach out to me, you know how you can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you want to be added to this Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot of said review to itscavalier53.com, and I'll send you an invite. If you want to help support one of your favorite Cavs content creators, consider becoming a paid member on Patreon. You can do so for as little as, I just adjusted it, but I think it might still be listed at $3. You know, $3 a month. You know, maybe even $1. I think that is what I adjusted to. But if you want to help support your boy, you know what you can do. Consider becoming a member over there. The link is in the description. And I'll leave it at that. That said, go Cavs. Have a good night.